Hello. Today's poem on our weekly Behind the Poem stories is a poem called Worshipping Lethe. Now, Lethe is a ancient kind of Greek concept, one from the underworld. It is supposed to be one of the rivers in the underworld that leads to Elysium, the paradise that the dead go to in Greek mythology. Worshipping Lethe as a title was a little bit ironic because the river of the dead, the Lethe, is supposed to wipe out mortal memory and is supposed to lead to forgetfulness of your mortal life, oblivion. And the dead drink to it, forget their mortal lives and pass into Elysium so that they can enjoy paradise without any of the worries or former memories that might hold them back from enjoying their well-earned or well-deserved rest. The poet Virgil in the Aeneid had Aeneas looking at the river Lethe and his father talking about how the river was where men waiting for rebirth, men waiting to be reincarnated, would go to quench their troubles and achieve oblivion so that once they had washed their memory clean of their previous lives, they could once again re-enter the world and be reborn. The poem itself within my book is a poem about memory. So not necessarily about wiping out memory, about how memory affects us, how memory works, how our memories trick us, or how we remember the things that are most important to us. The form that the poem is, Worshipping Lethe, is a villanelle. So like the earlier video where I talked about losing my senses, the villanelle is something that I learned about at university in a poetry module, and something I had an affection for, had a go at, but it is extremely difficult to write. One of the most famous villanelles is "Do not go gentle into that good night," and Dylan Thomas's famous poem is about encouraging his father to rage against the dying of the light, to rage against death, to fight it. That all men do head towards the night, all men do fight that for various reasons, and he's encouraging his father to be angry with him if he must, but to actually fight against death. Worshipping Lethe became a villanelle by accident. The form itself was not what I intended to use to write this poem. I had just finished doing an adult workshop about the form villanelle when I attempted to write this poem, and it almost fell into that pattern, became that idea by accident. What had happened earlier that day is that a friend of mine had lost someone. Someone close to them, someone in their family, and I had been thinking about how I could comfort that person and how to express that comfort. I have lost people that I've been close to. Everybody has, and more frequently these days, which is a really unfortunate side effect of us going through what we're going through in the world today. But for anyone who has lost someone close to them, I'd like to share, as part of my sharing about Worshipping Lethe, how I think about it, because a lot of times we forget certain things when we are in the middle of our grieving process. It also came up recently with a second friend. So a year ago, I had been trying to comfort a friend. Recently, I had been trying to comfort a friend. And years and years and years ago, I had been trying to figure out how to comfort myself when I lost someone very important to me. And so it's difficult, but I want to share with you a memory of someone close to me. When I was coming over to England for the first time, I went out to lunch with my Aunt May. And I was particularly close to my Aunt May. She understood me, and she was adventurous and liberal and funny and traveled the world. She was unique in every possible way, as a woman and as a person. And I enjoyed visiting with her every time I went to a family gathering. Now, my Aunt May was before, I'm reasonably sure it was either before I was born or very early on, had cancer. And she got treatment for it, and she was in remission for almost all my life. And then right before I came to England, it had come back. It had come back, and she was made aware that it had spread to it came back more quickly or it came back more fiercely, and it had spread to a point where there wasn't going to be a treatment option. And being as I was going away for a year, and we were particularly close, she came over to spend the afternoon with me, to spend the day with me. And we both didn't talk about it, but we both knew that we weren't going to see each other again. She read my tarot cards, because this is something that she did professionally and something that we always shared together. If I have ever done a tarot card reading for you, it means that you are very close to me, because it's not something I share with strangers. It's something that I only share with people who matter to me because of who taught me to read tarot cards. She read my tarot cards, and we went out to lunch, and she teased me for flirting with the waiter. And in the car, she talked about how it had spread and how bad it was going to get. And I was really upset, and I didn't know what to say. Nobody knows what to say when someone is going to that. And I found I couldn't but ask the normal question, well, what's going to happen? And she did something amazing. She taught me about the point where you accept it. And she said, well, Leah, I'm going to die. And she was laughing about it. She was lighthearted about it. She had had a full and rich life that she had loved and enjoyed, with family that she had loved and enjoyed, and children that loved her. So, she had gotten to the point where this was what was, and nothing was going to change that. And it was an amazing way of looking at it to me. And I have thought about it over time. And when other friends or other family members that I have known have passed, I always remember that kind of moment. Because we don't grieve for the people we lose. We don't grieve for even outside of death, even when it's someone who is just moving, or someone who is changing life directions, or their pathway is diverging for us, whether it's a friend or a relationship or a loved one who's going somewhere else where we won't be able to see them very much anymore. When we lose a relationship or we lose a person permanently through death or other means, we don't grieve for them. We grieve for ourselves, because we don't get to make new memories with them. We don't get to spend more time with them. We don't get to hang out with them, go for drinks with them. We don't get to laugh or watch football games together. We don't get to do all the things that we are used to doing as part of our daily life. We don't have the input of them anymore. But we do forget that whether it is someone who has passed away, or whether it is someone who has just moved to another country, or moved on in life, or changed pathways, we have every moment up to that one. We have every memory, every laugh, every conversation, every bit of treasure, every bit of valuable insight, every moment of joy that we shared with that person. We get to keep that. That doesn't go away. Nothing takes that away from us. And so we need to remember that part of letting someone go, regardless of the reason, is being okay with that letting go, and knowing that they get to live forever. everything you've ever had with them, every memory you've ever shared, every moment you've ever spent together gets to live forever, as long as you keep remembering it, as long as you keep talking about it, as long as that person is always present with you in your memories. There is no oblivion. There is no loss. And so with the poem Worshipping Lethe, I was trying to capture that philosophy of my own, in that memory is a tricky thing. We forget what we had for breakfast, but we remember that one time when you fell out of the tree and your best friend helped you till somebody could get the first aid kit. We don't remember the last interview that we had, or the worst interview that we had, or the best interview that we had, or the fact that we missed the bus last week or the train this week. We don't remember those things, but we do remember that in the high school, after the high school dance, going and having the car battery run out while you're hanging out with your boyfriend before you go into the diner, and laughing because then you had to go into the diner to get somebody to help jump the car without explaining why. So this is not about loss. Nothing and no one is gone from the living. Okay, they may be passing into paradise. They may be drinking from the river Lethe so that they can lose their cares and lose their pain and enjoy the paradise they've earned. This is about, for the living, to realize that tricky and chaotic as memory is, when we smell a food or we hear a song, our memory allows those people to live forever for us. Anything, any moment, any time of the day, chaotically can bring that memory back to us, and that means we get to keep it. We get to love them. We get to have them forever. So the worshipping Lethe is allowing for those people to lose their pain, but also inverted oblivion for the living. We get to make them live forever for us, because we don't want them to go. We want them to stay with us. And our memory allows us to do that. And we keep our memory, even if they pass into paradise. So I know that's a long, convoluted explanation, but this was a really unexpectedly powerful poem when I was trying to capture this philosophy. So when you read Worshipping Lethe, think about memory. Think about how different senses bring up memory, and how anything and anyone you have ever wanted to remember is always with you as long as you remember them. So, thank you for listening, and I hope that this has been as powerful for you as this poem turned out kind of accidentally for me. I will wish you well, and I will see you next week for when we can talk about another poem. Have a good